Welcome to F-Bomb History.
Every evening when the sun goes down, get with my party and I begin to clown. I don't care what the people are thinking. I'm not drunk, I'm just a drinker. I set 'em up, another round. I set 'em up, another round. I set 'em up, another round. One more round won't get me down.
Previously on F-Bomb History.
I'm coming over the mountains and I'm gonna fucking rape all you. Fuck you! And piss on your fucking grave! Okay, so Morgan friggin' takes off, right? He's got about 600 Continentals with him. Yeah. We're talking about Delawares,
Marylanders, Virginia,
and Virginians,
and one little teeny weeny section of North Carolina.
Yeah, a little tiny North Carolina.
Like 50 guys.
So he's got about 600 dudes, right? And he is moving towards the western part of South Carolina.
Towards 96.
Towards 96.
Yeah.
Right? And he's also got about 80 horsemen with him. I can't leave them out.
Well, that's part of the Continental. They're Continental horsemen.
He's got about 80 horsemen with him, who these guys are Continental horsemen, and they're known as the 3rd Light Dragoons.
Yep. And they had about 25 guys from the 1st Dragoons.
Yeah. And they were freaking commanded by a guy named William Washington.
Yep.
William Washington was George Washington's cousin.
Yep.
And this was kind of freaking awkward for young William, because Billy Washington, George looked at Billy a couple of times and was like, dude, I can't really promote you ahead of your peers because it would look like nepotism.
Yeah.
And the other piece was, Billy Washington was kind of on the other side of the river from George. He was like that other side of the Washington family kind of thing. But anyway, we're going to get deeper into the fucking William Washington thing because Billy Washington was a fucking badass.
Yeah, he was.
And he keeps coming up later.
He's one of the unsung heroes of the Rev War that you don't hear about that much.
Because he didn't write his own book.
Yeah.
He never wrote his own book.
Yeah. Well, Billy Washington, the South gets left out of history books. We'll talk about that.
A lot. That's another part.
Yeah.
Anyway, fucking Billy Washington's a badass in his own right. All right. And they start moving out towards the western fucking part of North Carolina.
Right.
And one of the South Carolina. I'm sorry. Western South Carolina. And one of the things that that part of South Carolina has an issue with, believe it or not, is Georgia loyalists.
Yeah.
Georgia loyalists, and when we refer to loyalists are like guys that are loyal to the king. Yeah. They're like, hey, king, country, whatever, we got it.
They're Michigan militia that like the King George.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
These dudes are freaking running freaking roughshod over freaking western South Carolina and kind of being assholes.
Yeah, they were.
Morgan kind of looked at Billy Washington at one point, William Washington, who, again, and for reasons that some of our fans will understand, I'm a fan of William Washington. Morgan looked at William Washington and said, hey, go fix that shit. And he wouldn't fix it in a place called Hammond's Store. And he pretty much freaking eradicated the Georgia militia problem and sent them packing. This is a big freaking issue for the next battle that's coming up, which we're talking about is Cowpens.
Yeah, it happened about 2 weeks before Cowpens.
About 2 weeks before Cowpens, because he eradicated all the British loyalists. This kept loyalists freaking from coming in and helping the British cause.
Right.
But what it did was it freed up all those South Carolina loyalists that didn't have to worry about sitting around and protecting home and hearth. They could go and fight for the Patriot cause.
Now, you got to picture this. All right, in the South, I know up north, and you see all these movies and shit. It's like, oh, we're all for.
The Revolutionary War was won in the North. Fuck.
Well, not just that. It was like everybody's, we're all. But you got to realize it's shades of gray. And the way I like to look at it is think of the modern political parties today. How everybody is for one side or the other, and they don't like to budge from their opinion.
There's no gray.
When you get in the 18th century, the South was heavily divided. there was a shit ton of loyalists.
Yeah.
In fact, the area where we're filming this right here, the Prancing
All
Pony,
loyalists.
it's actually filmed in a place called Barbecue, North Carolina. It was all loyalist territory.
Pretty much.
And so if you went through here and you were a patriot, you would probably be fucking killed.
You wouldn't make it through the other
So
side.
there was huge number of people that were for the king because they didn't want the revolution. And it was a huge number. It wasn't like 1 or 2 or 10 or 20. We're talking like almost probably 50-50, 50%, 50%. And so if you lived in the South in the 18th century, there was no people sitting on the fence. You had to pick one side or the other or else you'd be burned out.
And the reason Pat brings that up is because people like to talk about the American Revolution and the rule of thirds, where a third is for the king, a third doesn't give a shit, and a third is for the patriots. Down here,
No.
no.
Half and half.
You're either freaking for or against. Fuck you.
There was no fence sitters.
There are no fence sitters
No.
at all.
You
If
pick
you're
a
a
side.
fence sitter, you got burned out by the other ones that weren't.
Think of Afghanistan today. There's nobody in the middle saying, I don't give a shit. No.
Yep, exactly. All right, so friggin', then you on the other side, friggin',
What's coming against Morgan?
Cornwallis sends Tarleton,
Banastre Tarleton.
Banastre Tarleton,
23 years old?
23, 24 years old.
Pretty
dude.
fucking young.
One of my favorite freaking British commanders, and one of my favorite British commanders because it was like, I've always looked at dudes in history and I'm like, would I work for that guy? And I look at Tarleton, I'm like, I'd fucking work for that
sure, why
fucking
not?
guy.
Yeah.
I'd work for that fucking guy. Because he was a badass.
You got women coming
I
around.
mean, this dude was he was arrogant. I kind of like that in a commander.
After the war, he dated the hottest
He did.
theater star
Pretty much.
in Britain called Perdita.
He was like serious. But
no,
he was sharing that shit with the fucking
no.
Prince of Wales, dude.
Well, not only that, but here's the deal. Every day in the headlines in the London papers was, what is Banastre Tarleton and Perdita doing?
Oh, fuck.
And so it's kind of like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie
shit.
in the National Choir.
No, it was fucking.
So
bullshit.
everybody followed this guy because he was a young, good-looking dude who was a dynamic
there's
motherfucker.
two descriptions of Tarleton, which always cracks me up because I mean there's a really freaking beautiful painting that I'm sure a director will put up.
Yeah, right here.
Our director will put up on this painting right over our
Right
shoulders
there,
here
you see right there?
of friggin' Tarleton, but.
Okay, anyway.
That just happened.
Well, no, I want to be beside the picture.
That just.
All right, let's keep going.
Okay. Anyway, so, but one description of Tarleton freaking cracks me up because they're like, hey, he was like a short, stocky, freaking hook-nosed asshole of a guy.
What?
Yeah, that's one description I
Sounds
read.
like Brad Pitt.
No. And then the next description was, when the dude gets captured at Camden and he's riding with him, he was like, oh, he was very well spoken and he was very lithe and freaking fit and had fiery red hair
Like Brad Pitt?
and was obviously in charge of everyone. Tarleton was a fucking consummate badass.
You're not gay if you like Brad Pitt.
Okay, so check. Did you just say that out loud?
Oh, well, anyway.
So Tarleton is a badass, right? Here's the problem, though. If you watched our first episode, Tarleton had this one fucking problem.
Custer. That was our first episode.
Well, Custer wasn't his problem. The problem was, as probably Custer learned from Tarleton, that you had one tactic.
Charge.
Tarleton, he's already had fucking issues, all right? Because Cornwallis, as we talked about, took Charleston, everything else. And, it was like, hey, we got Charleston, it's ours. But what he does is he takes this freaking most badass freaking light infantry / light cavalry commander and says, hey, I want you to go ahead and fuck up everybody else that's coming down here to fucking help Charleston out.
Yeah.
Charlton says, right to that, boss. And fucking launches. And in a day and a half or 2 days, this motherfucker rode from Charleston to
North Carolina border.
the North Carolina border. I'm sure we'll have a map that'll show how far that is.
Yeah.
But we'll ride that far probably killed a good 25, 30, 40, 50 fucking horses doing it. And he meets a guy named Buford. So we talk about Reader at this point?
Right. Now, just briefly, okay, Buford, what it was, Buford was one of the Virginia units that didn't get captured.
Third Virginia.
Well, it was a composite of more than like 6 different units, but there was
pretty much the 3rd Virginia.
There was a bunch of guys who were all heading down to Charleston to relieve it, but when they found out that Charleston was not being, Charleston got captured.
Like, fuck, we got.
And so they turned around and went back. Well, Tarleton chased this guy down, and Buford made a series of really stupid mistakes, but one of them was basically you don't shoot at a charging group of cavalry when they're 50 yards away, because even if you do kill the horse, it's going to run you over and crush you like a bug. So
it worked out really poorly for him.
Yeah. So
Buford, that whole shoot till you see the whites of their eyes, fucking bullshit. When you're
with
fighting
a horse,
horses,
yeah, it doesn't work.
That didn't work.
And so what happened was, they basically charged. Buford's men pretty much run away, and then something happened. And what happened was, as Tarleton was about to ready to take surrender, his horse gets shot, and it falls, and he's underneath the horse, and all of his men think, "Oh my God, you just shot our commander, and you were under flag of truce. Fuck you! Game fucking on, bitches! And we're gonna kill all you!" And so they start killing people. They think they broke the truce. Finally, Tarleton gets up and goes, "Hey, I'm okay. I'm better. I didn't die."
It's okay.
But what happened was, when he stopped it, he was able to stop the massacre. But because prisoners got killed, the American media blew the story out of proportion. And the American media said, "Oh my God, it's a massacre. He killed everybody, and he will never take your surrender. He'll slaughter all of you."
Now, granted, a lot of the survivors of this massacre had wounds to their hands and arms and all this other bullshit. I got it.
But nobody, even the survivors, didn't call it a massacre. They just said, "Dude got us. He
kicked the shit."
It's like when you are one army and you do a really good fight on another army and you wipe them out, is it called a massacre? Look at all the shit the United States does against our enemies. We wipe them out. Is it a massacre? No, it's just we're better than they are.
Do we want to go there?
Yeah, we're better than they are.
Next time on F-Bomb History.
Sweet Eddie line. Wah, wah, wah.
Came home last night all full of lush. My babe began to fuss and I said, "Honey, honey, I don't care what the people are thinking. I'm not drunk, I'm just drinking. I said, "Mother, another round."